Okay, and we are live. Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the sports podcast. I think this is a podcast. I kind of just plugged my microphone into my computer and started talking to it, but I guess that's pretty much what a podcast is, right? But today is the very first episode. I figured today was a good day to start this, considering the major bomb that was dropped in the sports world today, specifically in the baseball world. But before we get into that, I should probably do a little bit of an introduction. My name's Lawrence Halverson. I'm a big sports fan, a big baseball fan specifically, but I do like talking about all kinds of sports. I've always wanted to do a podcast like this. I never really got around to it, but with the events that happened today, I figured I might as well give my 2 cents about it. But that's pretty much all I have any kind of plans on doing with this podcast, is just kind of giving my 2 cents about stuff that happens in sports. I don't necessarily know how often I'll be making these or anything like that. I'm gonna kind of just do them on the fly. But there might be a bunch of background sounds and stuff. I'm still, figuring out settings and stuff like that. I got the squeakiest chair in the world, so that you might hear that a couple of times. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into this. So for those of you guys that don't exactly know what we're talking about or what I'm talking about, just to give it a little bit of context or backstory. In 2017, the Houston Astros had an absolutely historic season. They ended up winning the World Series. They actually beat my team, the Dodgers. I'm a huge Dodgers fan. I'm a big biased Dodgers fan. So if you guys sense a lot of bias in this whole first episode, it's because there is a very, very much so bias. I'm just going to be 100% transparent about that. But anyways, getting back on topic. So the Houston Astros had a historic season, ended up winning the World Series. They took the Dodgers to a Game 7. It was honestly one of the greatest World Series of all time. I know a lot of people consider Game 5 of that World Series the greatest World Series game of all time, actually, which is, if we're going to be honest, it's up there, right? So when that happened, I was really sad. It was the first time I'd ever seen them in the World Series and they lose, right? So I was just like, damn, that sucks. So flash forward, 2 years. And allegations start coming out about the Houston Astros being cheaters. When this came out, the first thing that I saw was sign stealing. And in baseball, it's actually it's not super uncommon for, players to try and steal signs. Stealing signs isn't necessarily a remarkable brand new thing that we're just discovering. Players try and steal signs all the time. If you have a runner on second base, you're not going to just not look at the catcher's fingers to see what kind of signs he's putting down. The big difference here, though, is the fact that the Astros had actually placed a camera in center field and recording live the signs coming from the catcher and then relaying those signs to the batter by banging on a trash can with a baseball bat. So it's quite a bit different if it's just human beings kind of trying to communicate to each other via signs about what signs they're seeing from second base versus literally getting it 100% correct every time because you have literally a fucking camera. You know what I mean? It's kind of a big difference. So anyways, this whole kind of thing comes out. There's a YouTuber out there named John Boy who on Twitter actually posted a video kind of exposing the Astros and kind of syncing up the banging noises with the change-up calls, and became this huge thing. MLB launches an investigation into it, and it ends up leading to where we're at today, because today, after I think it's been probably a solid, I want to say 4 or 5 months of investigating, I know that there were accusations before, something along the lines of the whistling and all that stuff going on. This isn't necessarily a brand new topic, but today was the judgment day for this entire thing, and it ended up the Houston Astros manager AJ Hinch, who was supposedly had actually nothing to do with the creation of the banging on drum scheme, I guess you could say. But was very, very aware of the fact that it was happening, said nothing about it, even actually on camera in interviews came out and said that it was all a lie and that, people were just jealous of how good the Astros were and that people were just making up these ridiculous, lies about the team. But come to find out, the dude just got fired from his job and suspended for an entire year from being in Major League Baseball because he got caught red-handed. So not a very good look, you know what I mean, to be sitting down in interviews and telling people that they're dumb and that they got it all wrong when it turns out everybody had it right. But But this whole kind of debacle goes a little bit deeper than that. So a couple of little things. I know I'm kind of all over the place. I apologize. This is my very first time really doing this, and this is one of these topics that there's a million details, and I want to try and go over some of the major ones. So one of the first things I got right here is the effects of this cheating outside of just the World Series. So obviously the Astros win the World Series that year. I mean, I guess there's some kind of argument going on whether the cheating had anything to do with it. If you're cheating and you're getting signs, you have a huge upper hand in winning a World Series. Like, there's no other way around that. That's just a fact. But some of the effects outside of just winning the World Series that I wanted to go over, I believe it was Trevor Bauer, a pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, that came out and said this. Think about how many players, right? I mean, in Major League Baseball, it's so hard to become a professional in any major sport, right? Any major sport, it's incredibly hard to become a professional, especially to become like a good professional, right? I mean, football, you have your backup quarterbacks. In baseball, you got your bench utility players. Everybody's got those players that are on the hinge, right? Those players that if they got cut, nobody would care. Like, nobody would know. But to those people, I mean, that's their livelihood, right? I mean, everything they've ever worked for. I mean, they've put their heart and soul into getting to that position. Now, I only bring this up because I imagine being a pitcher who's just kind of getting his little crack into the MLB, right? You're just getting into the game. You go up onto the mound, and for whatever reason, these Houston Astros are just hitting every single pitch you throw. Every time you throw a changeup, they're just nailing it, right? And you get sent down to the minors because you get shelled by the Astros, right? So, I mean, I know I'm doing the longest reach of all time. I get that. I want to be aware of that. I know this is a reach. But you had to think at some point in that 2017 season when they're doing all this cheating, there had to be one prospect, one kind of lower tier player that got shelled because of this cheating, aspect of the game and ruined their career potentially, right? I mean, you get sent down to the minor leagues. I mean, you do a bad enough job. I mean, there's no saying that you won't come back up. You know what I mean? There's a chance that you lose out on a lot of money. You know what I mean? There's a lot of potential, a lot of moving up the ladder that doesn't happen because of that. Again, a complete stretch, a complete reach. I get that. But it needs to be said because it is technically a possibility, right? I'm not sure of the numbers of like rookie pitchers versus Astros during that season. So a lot of this is it's a lot of, what everybody is doing, a lot of speculation, a lot of thinking, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to say that a lot of players had their careers affected by this cheating. So it goes way and to me, it's almost more sinister than like cheating to win a World Series, right? Cheating to win a World Series is scummy, don't get me wrong, but like when you're literally cheating people out of their livelihoods, you know what I mean? Like that's, man, I don't think anybody can be okay with that. But that was one of the points that I wanted to bring up. Trevor Bauer, again, the one that brought that up, I believe. But the other thing is AJ Hinch, right? So Major League Baseball handed down some punishments to the Houston Astros organization. Should probably go over those first. So I believe the first one, what was the first punishment? I think the very first punishment was actually the manager and the GM. I think it was AJ Hinch, the manager, getting suspended for a year, and then the GM, I think his name is Jeff Lunau. Lunau? I don't know. Jeff Lunau. He also got suspended for an entire season. But the kind of turning point of this entire event is Jim Crane, the owner of the Astros. I think it was like minutes after these punishments came out. So Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, the commissioner, announced these punishments of the Astros. And I think it was like 20 minutes later, the owner actually of the team came out and said that he was firing AJ Hinch and Jeff Lunau, which is pretty crazy. I mean, imagine getting fired on live television, dude. That sucks. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, so does cheating other people out of World Series titles. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like a give and take. But Jim Crane fired AJ Hinch and Jeff Lunau, so they are no longer on the Astros, and something tells me it's going to be a little bit difficult to even get them back on a team. So I guess that kind of goes with the, you reap what you sow. Maybe you potentially, damage or ruin somebody's career, and now your career is kind of down the shithole a little bit. You know what I mean? So kind of crazy how that works. But the thing that I find a little bit interesting, and again, this is my Dodgers bias coming out, and I understand that, but you cannot justify doing things like banning Pete Rose for eternity, right? The guy can't get into the Hall of Fame. The guy, even if he wanted to at the time, could never set foot on a major league field like as a player. Like his career was completely over. They banned him for life because he bet on his own team. He bet on his own team. Had no effect on the game, right? He didn't like, I don't know, like he didn't like hurt or anybody, you know what I mean? Because you always hear those stories of people, like the Black Sox and stuff like that. You hear those stories, but I mean, Pete Rose bet on his own team to win. He was just so confident in his team that he bet money on them to win, and he got banned for life, right? AJ Hinch gets caught red-handed, knowing, right, of a complete scheme of cheating to win a World Series, and he gets suspended for a 1 year? That's a little crazy, Rob Manfred, commissioner of Major League Baseball. I think this punishment, I mean, don't get me wrong, the first and second round draft picks for the next 2 years, damn, that's whew, that one felt good. That one felt good to see. Okay, that one was like, that felt appropriate. But the 1 year suspensions and the $5 million fee, I think it's a $5 million penalty, which was like the max under like the MLB constitution or whatever contract or whatever. $5 million. I mean, Mike Trout just signed a $460 million contract by himself, and I know he has nothing to do with this, but it's like these players and these organizations, these owners, they have a lot of money. I feel like $5 million doesn't really put the dent that it was supposed to in the Houston Astros pocket. So I would have liked to see that a little higher. Again, I'm going to emphasize it for the 10,000th time, complete Dodger bias there. But anyways, another kind of little tidbit that went on with this entire scandal was the fact that the players involved weren't really affected in the discipline, meaning there was really no discipline handed down to the players. I know George Springer, there's all kinds of videos of him with the banging. It's all over the internet. Just Google search it a little bit. George Springer, a lot of those players, I mean, they're full-blown cheating, right? So you would think they would at least get some sort of hand in the punishment, but it seems like that's not happening. I know a lot of it that has to do with the union, right? The players union. They're gonna fight tooth and nail to protect their players, as they should. But in this situation, when you're caught red-handed cheating like that, I mean, I feel like the players union needs to kind of just understand what happened, and these players need to be punished. Like, I mean, there's no other way around it. And that's not even, if we're going to be honest, that's not even any kind of a bias, right? I mean, these players cheated. They literally were knowingly cheating in the game. And they don't get even a slap on the wrist? Like, that's a little wild to me. You can't just fire your manager and fire your GM and suspend them for a year and dock draft picks, but then look at the players who were actually doing the cheating and be like, nah, we'll leave you guys alone. We'll leave you guys alone. But I don't know. I do like the draft pick punishment. I thought that was a good one. But I mean, man, what a story, right? I've been following this for quite a long time since it broke, because I mean, it just seemed, once I saw that John Boy video, right, it was just over. Like, I was so certain that the Houston Astros cheated me out of seeing my team win a World Series. You know what I mean? But now to see it like fully confirmed, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty cool. But the other thing is, does Major League Baseball strip the Houston Astros of their title? Does that happen? In my personal opinion, 100%, right? I mean, I don't want the title. As a Dodgers fan, I don't want the title stripped from the Astros and given to the Dodgers. That's not what I want. I do want, however, the title stripped and then just like voided. An Astericks forever. Just as a permanent reminder to the legacy of the Houston Astros that they cheated, right? And we all know about 2018, right? Because for those of you guys that also don't know, the Boston Red Sox are currently under investigation for Major League Baseball right now for the exact same thing that the Houston Astros are in trouble for. So after seeing these punishments that have been handed down to the Astros, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what Major League Baseball does with the Red Sox. Because another little interesting tidbit is Alex Cora, who is the current manager of the Red Sox, was actually, I believe, an assistant coach or like a bench coach for the Astros in 2017. So it's pretty interesting for a former Astro of 2017 to become the manager of the Red Sox, and out of nowhere, that player is under scrutiny for the exact same thing. So you got to think Alex Cora is going to get the ban hammer, right? You got to think that if there's anybody in this entire situation that actually fully deserves to get the permanent life ban, it's got to be Alex Cora, which hurts me to say a little bit because the dude is a former Dodger. But I mean, when you're like spreading this cheating disease throughout the league to like, especially to like teams like the Red Sox, right? I mean, like the Red Sox are like they have the oldest stadium in baseball. Like they're the historic team, and you taint that franchise that badly. That's bad, man. That's really bad. Alex Cora really needs that ban hammer. If Rob Manfred wants to show that he's even the slightest bit, or he's even got the slightest bit of a spine, I should say, he's got to come down at the ban hammer on Alex Cora. There's no other way around it. But it does hurt, right? Back-to-back World Series as your team gets cheated out of. Damn, that sucks. But I'm glad that it's all at least been brought to light, because it would be lame for all these allegations to be out there and for there never to be a resolution, so that like, because I mean right now, I mean it's a done deal. The Houston Astros are cheaters. There's no other way around it. It's not a speculation anymore. It's not allegations anymore. It's 100% fact. The Houston Astros are a cheating franchise. They cheated for the World Series. It's just the way it is. It's just the hard knock truth, right? And so we'll find out what happens with the Red Sox. You know what I mean? If they cheated, they cheated. You know what I mean? I know they were under scrutiny for something to do with an Apple Watch or something of the sort. So we'll see. But I mean, I also have to, kind of keep my head on a swivel, because, there's every possibility in the world, right? That next week these same allegations come out against the Dodgers. Maybe the Dodgers had a camera in center field. You know what I mean? Who knows? Right now it's kind of a big taint on the entire sport as a whole, right? Because I mean, who knows who's doing this, and who knows what other ways of cheating there are. Maybe there's different ways. Maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's a drone flying 10,000 feet up in the sky that are reading signs. I don't know. That's obviously a little bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point. Like, there's definitely other ways that this could have been dealt or done, and maybe other teams were doing the exact same thing. It just didn't get caught. So overall, this is a giant stain just on all of baseball. But like I said, I am glad that the punishments were given, that this was at least settled, so we're not sitting here wondering what's going on. But interesting stuff. I'm interested to see maybe what you guys are thinking about this. I know a lot of this has happened in sports quite a bit. I mean, I hate to bring up the 2002 Western Conference Finals in the NBA, you know what I mean? But cheating happens. It just happens in the game. But it needs to be dealt with. Alex Cora needs to be banned from baseball. Do the titles get stripped? I think so, but I also don't think it actually happens. I just kind of think it's just going to be one of those. This is one of those Astericks championships. You know what I mean? That's just the way that's going to have to fly. But other than that, I know I rambled and I talked pretty fast. I probably wasn't even very informative in this whole thing, but it was pretty nice to actually, just kind of talk about this stuff. So who knows? Maybe I'll do these more often. I'll probably won't keep it just to baseball. There goes my dog barking. What a perfect ending to this. But I'm gonna try and spread it around sports wise and not just do baseball, and we'll see what happens. But thank you guys for listening. If you guys did listen to the whole thing, I do appreciate it. If you guys have any feedback, always appreciated. Any topics, anything you want to talk about, maybe you're a fellow sports fan and you want to kind of do a little feature on the podcast or anything of the sort, I would love to do anything like that. I think this would be a cool little thing to do. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Go Dodgers, right? We got our reckoning today. But thank you guys for watching or listening, and peace out, guys.